It's the latest event in a race that Rolling Stone's Jeb Lund called "Everything That Is Wrong with American Democracy." Joining me now, my colleague Steve Kornacki, host of Up on MSNBC, and Jennifer Carroll, former Lieutenant Governor of Florida in Governor Rick Scott's administration, author of When You Get There. Jennifer, can I start with you? I remain flummoxed as to how Rick Scott is the governor of Florida to begin with, given the fact that his record had some real big negatives to it, and I'm not saying this in a partisan fashion, he just doesn't seem to be at all a natural politician in any way, shape, or form.
Well, your question is the same that a lot of Floridians have. And during the time that the governor ran in 2010, his opponent in the primary election was a question mark for the voters as well. So the governor came across as a non-politician, an outsider that will bring a change to government, which, as it turns out, the change ended up being the good old boy system back in place again.
What do you mean by that?
Well, as I depict in my book, the good old boy system that continued to exist with the typical political maneuvers and backstabbing that occurs behind closed doors, the favoritism that occurs in politics when the good old boys are still in place, and that's exactly what we have in the government in the state of Florida. The Tea Party got behind Governor Scott when he was running because he was going to change all that. He was going to run the state as a business and have accountability and measures, and unfortunately it went back to the same old system.
And the irony here, Steve, is that he ran this big business. He made a lot of money off it. It was also a business that entered into the largest plea for Medicare and Medicaid fraud ever in the history of the United States government. Over $1 billion ended up being paid in fines. He was CEO while some of this activity happened. He was never convicted. He took the fifth. But then he took the money that he made and he plowed it into, I mean, a big part of why he's governor is he just spent a ton of money.
Well, what he did, though, also, it was sort of a right time, right place situation. He had the money and he caught the Tea Party wave and he caught the anti-healthcare wave. 2010. He put himself, he created this group, I think it was Conservatives for Healthcare Reform, something like that, opposing, putting big money out there and making himself the face of this conservative movement against the Obama.
Right, he was running ads, before he was running ads nationally against healthcare reform.
And that segued him right into the campaign. And Bill McCollum, that's the former Attorney General of Florida, also a former congressman from Florida who he ran against, was somebody who brought some of, as she's saying, has brought some history to this race as well. He'd been one of the prosecutors in the Clinton impeachment back in and lost a Senate race in 2000 as well. So he had some history too. And Scott ekes that out, runs against a Democrat who some people thought was a bit of a weak candidate and wins barely in the absolute right climate. But I will say, he hit a very low point about 2 years ago in his governorship, and his approval rating fell to about 30%. It's now back up to the mid-40s, and the big reason for that is there's a poll out this week that shows this race dead even. The reason why his numbers have come back is because there is, I don't think optimism is the right word, but if you ask Floridians, do you think the economy is going in the right direction? By a pretty big plurality, they say yes. It's 47-27.
Yeah, the irony is that part of that has to do with the national wave of the macro economy. Florida's created about 500,000 jobs, 600,000 jobs during his term, which is 100,000 less than the 700,000 that have been estimated. But Jennifer, are voters skeptical of Charlie Crist?
Some voters are skeptical of Charlie Crist, particularly Republican voters, but you have voters Republican and Democrat voters that are also skeptical of Governor Scott. So the question is, where do they go? Well, there's a third-party candidate, a libertarian, Adrian Wiley, that is picking up steam with the voters, and he's polling in the double digits now. And as a matter of fact, after the debate last night, he came out and stated that I am the viable option for these two people.